Well, welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Funding for education has been progressively declining in Nigeria's national budgets in recent years. At best, such allocations to a sector described as the most fundamental development index for a country, such as Nigeria, and indeed other middle-level countries, has remained largely stagnant. For the 2025 Nigerian budget, only 3.5 trillion naira, representing 7% of the total 47.9 trillion naira budget, was allocated to education, which when broken down would be needed to cater to all the nation's universities and every of their long-standing issues, polytechnics and colleges of education, before getting to the level of basic education. For a conversation around this, we are now being joined by seasoned educationist Modupe Adeyinka, who is founder and CEO of iAfrica Cloud School. Our guest proudly owns a group of schools in upscale surrounding areas in Nigeria, but you're spending lots of your time reaching out to the underserved and underprivileged areas, correct?
That I do.
Well, welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Now, we're talking about the budgeting, in the intro, the budgeting to serve education in Nigeria. But when you even look further into the budget, you see what that money is going towards. For example, the Federal Ministry of Education has budgeted 10 billion naira for purchasing new motor vehicles. Okay. But in that same budget, they've budgeted only 250 million naira to buy teaching aids and learning aid equipment. That means they're spending 40 times more money to purchase motor vehicles than on teaching aids. Do you believe that even within this restricted budgeting that we're seeing for our education in Nigeria, that even that small money is not being utilized properly?
Well, I'm not a civil servant. I'm not, but I can say, judging from where I am, running my own school, that the bulk of the money that we put into schools is for teaching aids and resources. Because if you don't provide the teachers with the resources to teach the children, there's not going to be any learning taking place. And right now we're dealing with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And these children exhibit different learning styles, and definitely listening is not one of them. So anybody who thinks that you're standing in front of a teacher, the sage on the stage kind of attitude, there's no learning taking place. And if the money isn't put into the resources to help the teacher to teach the children, then we haven't moved from where we are. And so I think it's a sad thing to hear that there's such little money going into it. I'd love to know what they're giving to training, because even our teachers, a lot of them are not prepared for teaching in the 21st century. And there's a whole new skill that they have to learn. Considering that we have 55 million children in our government schools. So if
55 million.
Yeah, we have 55 million. That was the statistics that was given when we had the EdTech fair. 55 million children. So if only 250 million is going for resources, then it's a no-brainer. We haven't started.
What do entrepreneurs in the education sector, like your good self, what do you expect from government, given that the intervention that you make, particularly in reaching undeserved communities, it's like a drop in the ocean. What are the sort of things that you expect government to do in collaborating with you, to do in assisting you, to make sure that education, particularly at the primary and secondary level, goes a lot more than what we are currently having now?
I think what educators in Nigeria want is what educators globally want. Everybody wants for the system to support the work that we do, because at the end of the day, we are the drivers of the future, because we are the ones helping to build that future. And if we don't give them the right foundation, then there's really very little to add to that. Right now in Nigeria, a lot of the children in schools cannot read. Literacy is not being taught properly, and it's not being addressed. And you know how they say if the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? So I've gone all over into underserved communities, public schools, and I've seen that it's such a simple thing to do. And when I think of back in 1971, when I was living I think 70, 71, leaving primary school for secondary school. Because of the planting season, Nigeria stopped and changed the calendar. And so my primary 6, I had 2 terms. I think there's some intervention that is drastic for primary 1 to primary 3 that needs to be put in place. And we say, enough is enough. These children are not reading. And all the money we're spending on everything else is being wasted. We're pouring it in a basket. Let us start teaching these children right. And then maybe we can intervene for the older children. But private school educators, we want to collaborate with government. We really do. But the thing that we're getting here is everybody's working in silos. And government feels that the public sector and private sector is the one that pays the tax, and that's really what we do. But we don't get anything back for that. But I would say to government, if I saw somebody today, how about telling private schools that, okay, we can give you tax breaks, help us train some of our teachers. Because our schools are much better prepared. We have the resources, we have everything. And there's nothing like modeling the expectations that you want the future teacher to see. We have the environment. So why not engage us? I've said this in many different places. Engage private sector educators, talk to NAPS, talk to IPEN, talk to ISEN, talk to all of them and come up with a program where we can work together, because this Nigerian problem, it's dire and we need to fix it.
This is your message to the new education minister, who's a Lagos boy, by the way, Tunji Alausa.
Oh, yeah, I heard so.
Yeah.
I heard so. Yes, we need to engage
more.
Yeah, we need to engage more. Mm-hmm. We can do more if we do it together.
All right, fantastic. I'd like to come in here and talk about the leveraging technology for inclusivity.
Okay.
You know, technology does have the potential to revolutionize education, as it has done in, you know, different countries in the world, breaking down barriers to access, to teachers, to the, the education that is needed, and improving their learning outcomes. Now, in Nigeria, we still see this digital divide remaining like a significant obstacle, especially when we're talking about those in the, the higher tertiary institutions, for example, with many schools still lacking access to technological capabilities. Now, how can we, with the current budget that we have, develop a robust strategy that helps us integrate technology into education? We're talking about, how some of these children don't read as much. It's not how it used to be before, where, technology was not as rampant. Is there like a disconnect? Is there something that maybe we're not fully taking advantage of when it comes to that marriage between technology and education?
I think the first thing we must recognize is that we're living in a very different time. Yeah. And the children in this time are motivated by technology. However, technology is not in our schools. And there's no way we can replace that for them. Because when you think about children born in this century, from birth, they've listened to TVs that are colored, that have people moving. And so the way they receive information is just so much different from what is as. And so even in the universities, we are challenged with the fact that technology costs a lot of money to put in place, and there's no money for that. But what I have found, because I'm an EdTech founder myself, is that we can find ways of creating bubbles and cells. So I will use what I do. I developed an EdTech solution which teaches literacy and has curriculum and a lot of all the other things I think foundation level need. And instead of trying to put technology in every child's hand now, I created like learning centers. And I am trying to get these learning centers to scale. I'm partnering with people like Adeyinka Foundation to see if we can put these cells in places where children who want to learn can go and learn. And we just have facilitators there. The truth is, the teacher today can't teach the child, but technology can. So we've put in pre-recorded videos, we tell stories, everything is so relatable. We've adapted it for our curriculum. And everywhere we've used it in IDP camps, we've used it in Makoko, we've used it in Ajegunle, we've used it in Jos, Abuja, in the East. Everywhere the children see, they're excited and they want to learn. And with this technology, a teacher is there as a facilitator. And to teach children today, really and truly, we are facilitators because children are really smarter than us.
I was about to say.
They are smarter than us.
My 5-year-old niece probably operates
and you know, we can't hold them back.
Yeah.
So if we try to depend on what the teacher is teaching the child, we are holding them back. What I say to teachers today is, you know what? You have to learn from each other, lifelong learning. They have things to teach you and they will learn things from you. But let the children lead. It's their generation and let them show you how they learn. And that's how we can teach. In Africa, generally, where we learn through apprenticeship, we're not about listening and making notes. It doesn't work for us. So I would say that even in our universities, we need to have a lot of project-based learning that allows them to go and do research. Maybe switch up the curriculum from just having lectures to having projects. Because I remember when my children...
I think that was the idea of the polytechnics in those days. But then you see what has happened to the polytechnics. They are now being converted back, to university.
But guess what? Even in universities abroad, there's some universities where you can ramp up all your grades from doing projects, and so you don't need to do an exam. You only do the exam if you feel that your grades are not good enough and you want a shot at lifting it up. So why not do that? Talking about agriculture, we have a lot of problems about why not have agri-based projects, and from those projects assess them, because at the end of the day, what you're looking for is that the learnings that they've made, they can translate it into everyday life and create things that can work. Yes, real life. And so Nigeria is a country that has a lot of problems. And if we look at our universities and help them to understand that every problem is a solution waiting to happen, we're waiting for them to create the solution. Let them start creating the solutions instead of just taking lectures and writing exams. Because I saw some teachers' assessments, they couldn't spell.
Yeah, but also, in certain like professional areas that you need
doctors,
to, you would need to take your exams.
Ones, no.
But I think something that our greatest resource in Nigeria is our people, it's our youth population, it's our children, and if they're ill-equipped for the world, this global world that we're living in, then we're going to be in a serious problem in the next decade if we have children who come into adulthood illiterate, unemployable, and unemployed. But beyond this, because something I like that you mentioned, the new Minister of Education, Honorable Minister Tunji Alausa, because he just added history back into the curriculum, which is something I'm very passionate about. Yeah. So in terms of not just how we are assessed, but what they are being taught, do you think there's more work that needs to be done to bring the curriculum to maybe the 21st century or to 2025? Yes, with global standards.
So, again, speaking nursery primary, I think the curriculum is fine. I think it's the approach to how we teach it that needs to be improved upon. Yes, they brought history back, and it's a good thing to have history back. It should never have gone in the first place. But then again, we have to look at the curriculum and see how broad it is for the Nigeria, because we don't want just history of Nigeria. I think one thing about our curriculum is we're so focused on Nigeria, but we need to think about West Africa, Africa, the world, the children.
Black history.
Yeah, Black history. The children don't know these things, and these are the things that they need. When we think of the future of work and what they're taking into the future, those are the ways they can get the skills and they can get the resilience to even face their future, without feeling pressured. So
is history back in your school?
It never left.
Oh. It never left.
It never left.
Fantastic, because what Mr. Lausa has said is not particularly new, given that even under Buhari, there was all this noise of history, coming back, and it set a few things in motion.
I mean, for that time, that period that it was taking out, the damage has been done already for a certain generation who didn't have access to that history.
But if they could read, they would find the information. There are people who...
You're right.
Yeah,
you're correct. So because social studies was meant to
Yes,
merge.
it was supposed to be everything.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about taking history out. I think it's about understanding that education in itself, or knowledge, it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel that we have too many subjects in Nigeria. We have too many. I think right now,
correct.
Nigeria
I think
needs,
we overload.
Yes, we overload even in
yeah.
our primary schools.
Yeah.
We overload, and then it continues in basic, junior secondary. I think that because we're bringing up children in a world where everybody's looking at the niche, everybody has to have a niche that they are competent at. I think we need to get them into that place where identify their talents and their skills and push them into those skills and stop this robust thing that a lot of people that did geography, philosophy, they're now unemployed. You know, those things are, I don't know.
Honestly, I agree with you completely.
There are some kids when they come back home with homework assignments. I mean, the parents like running with that.
I believe that we need to do geography and philosophy, because I did philosophy and I did history, and I'm not unemployed.
No. So with all due respect, what I'm trying to say is, you know, keep it simple. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you go into the they do philosophy in the UK. I mean, even Oxford and Cambridge offer a degree. I think it's history. PP.
Yes.
But what I'm saying for us here is that it's so narrow. It's just reflective of our society. And a lot of what they're teaching has not evolved from what they taught when I was in university. So that's where the problem lies.
Definitely.
Definitely.
You're 100% right. So I remember something a friend of mine said, that it's almost like putting a putting a bird and a fish and telling them to do a test where they have to fly, and then wondering why the fish didn't pass that test.
Yes.
You really have to focus on the niche and be able to just focus on that so that they can flourish,
Absolutely.
so to speak. Renowned educationist Modupe Adeyinka, thank you so much for your submissions this morning and being so passionate about education in Nigeria.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.